Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel where we are back with match content, back with Manchester United content, and this time it was their 1-0 win over Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, despite getting the 3 points, this was not an easy game for Manchester United, and we didn't expect it to be. That's what we were saying in our tactical preview the other day, that this was always going to be quite a tough game, and it was maybe made a little bit more difficult by the fact that Rashford and Ten Hag didn't start the game getting on with each other. Marcus Rashford was dropped from the team. We don't know exactly why, we've just heard disciplinary reasons. I would assume it's something like being late for training. However, as we will see in this video, he did eventually come onto the pitch, make the difference, and for me, the issue doesn't need to go any further than that. Ten Hag dealt with it well, kind of set the standard of saying, no one's undroppable, you have to live up to the standards that Ten Hag is setting. If you don't, you will be dropped, so I thought Ten Hag dealt with that well. And it gave Manchester United this starting 11 up against this Wolves starting 11, with Wolves making just one change from their game against Everton, with Nunes coming in, and Manchester United in this 11. And like I said right at the start of the video there, this wasn't a great Manchester United performance, and I thought that Wolves for perhaps 45 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, but certainly the first half, they were the better team. And it came from having some good principles and good patterns and good strategies on the ball. So what Wolves looked to do was play their way out from the back and try and get a real foothold of the ball. This wasn't a case of sitting with 10 men behind the ball and looking to counter-attack. Wolves very much went toe-to-toe with Manchester United, and up until about the 40th minute, it was 50-50 in terms of possession, with United just going into half-time with slightly more. But the way that Wolves looked to get possession was kind of what we were mentioning the other day. Before we continue with the analysis, I want to talk to you guys about JerseyFIFA.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that's the latest home shirts, the latest away shirts, tracksuits, or even retro kits, Jersey FIFA has a bit of everything. There really is something for everyone, so if you are interested, then make sure to use the link in the description down below and head to JerseyFIFA.com. With Ruben Neves often dropping a little bit deeper, sometimes in between the centre-backs, but sometimes just in front of the centre-backs. But what we also saw in this game, which Wolves didn't have the other day, was Matheus Nunes dropping deeper. And this guy is incredible. I was talking about him 9 months ago as a player that Manchester United should sign. In this game, I thought he really showed kind of why I was saying that. Because his ability on the ball, his press resistance, but also his ball carrying ability was absolutely phenomenal. And it caused a lot of problems for United because they didn't almost seem ready to deal with this sort of shape. I don't think they were expecting Nunes to be kind of as deep as what he was, because he hasn't really been used there this season, but it is his best position. And it caused a few problems for United, because what Wolves done was push their fullbacks quite high like this. Again, quite early in the game. And the Manchester United wingers were kind of caught in between, particularly Anthony down this side. Now, we know he likes to do defensive work, he does put a shift in, but positionally he was getting dragged about a bit. And we would see him kind of stepping up like this, Garnacho doing it on this side. And Anthony's kind of drawn into going after Nunes, because Casemiro doesn't want to get drawn out into this area. But what it's done was it left United with an issue down this side of the pitch, because Podence was constantly coming really narrow, dragging Wan-Bissaka inside. So what this meant was that the Wolves players on the ball, 4 players here who are very good on the ball, in Collins, Kilman, Neves and Nunes, with Neves and Nunes in particular, they were regularly able to lift the ball out to Bueno on his left-hand side, and then I thought that he was really aggressive in the way that he played, stepping forward with the ball and bombing down the wings. And we also saw something similar down the other side of the pitch as well, with Hwang again grabbing Malacia really narrow, and then Wolves looking to play out, get the ball to Semedo, who was then nice and direct on the ball. Now, to be fair, Garnacho and Anthony did put a defensive shift in to try and get back and help out their fullback, but the problem was, because they'd been dragged into the press, they were slow getting back. They were working hard to get back, but they were just at a disadvantage because they were now out of position. So I thought that Wolves done really well in possession, and it was mainly Nunes. There were also situations where he was getting the ball here and just carrying it forward through the midfield. We also saw Collins do it on a few occasions. And for 2/3 of the pitch, Wolves were really impressive and caused a lot of problems. The problem was that once they got to the final third, they had nothing. I thought Luke Shaw defended really well against Diego Costa. And any time that Wolves did manage to put a meaningful cross into the box, Rafa Varane, I won't put him into the box because I don't want to put him behind me, but Rafa Varane's box defence in this game was absolutely brilliant. His aerial ability was there for all to see, but also his composure, reading of the situation, he was just there constantly. And there's also situations where Casemiro's dropping into the box as well. So Wolves really did play well, and they will be disappointed with the final result because they carried good quality on the ball, really good on the ball for 2/3 of the pitch. They just lacked that final end product, and as a result, De Gea was never really massively troubled apart from set pieces. A good save from a corner late on, but also a good save from a Ruben Neves free kick, but that was Wolves' only real threat. Everything from open play, Varane and Shaw were able to deal with, and like I said, their box defence was really good, and Eventually, as the game went on, that kind of gave United the chance to build possession, so that's what we're going to look at now. Let's look at what Manchester United done on the ball. So as I was saying earlier, this game went into half-time at pretty much 50-50 possession. I believe Manchester United had 53% of the ball at half-time. Perhaps a little less than what you would expect, but that came because Wolves were very intense with the way that they played, and they done exactly what I was talking about in my preview. They pressed one side of the pitch. So let's say, for example, Manchester United had the ball down the right-hand side here. Podence would come across, would then see Moutinho over on Casemiro, but then also what we would see is the far side winger, on this occasion Hwang, coming inside onto Christian Eriksen, and then Costa pressing as well. And what this does is it makes it difficult for Manchester United to progress the ball, because there are no free players. Now, the way to exploit this would have been for United to switch the ball, but particularly when switching from right to left, with Wan-Bissaka in the team at fullback, his passing is limited, and it made it really difficult for United to do this. So basically, United's only way to really progress the ball down this side of the pitch was with quick combinations between Wan-Bissaka and Antony. And I thought they'd done a reasonably good job. I thought they were okay, but Antony in particular, sloppy with his passing. Far too many occasions where quite a simple pass isn't completed. I thought Wan-Bissaka actually done a really good job. I thought he showed some press resistance in these areas and then was finding his target with his passes, but Antony was just lacking a bit of quality. Down the left-hand side, it weren't great again either. I thought Malacia done okay, but nothing special. I think at times he needed to be a bit more aggressive stepping forward with the ball. And I thought Garnacho was Manchester United's biggest threat in the first half. Looking to get at Semedo, who got a reasonably early booking. Garnacho looked like he had the beating of him, but Semedo always had that recovery pace. And then in terms of down the middle, Manchester United struggled to progress the ball. And like typically what I would talk about in this sort of video is Manchester United's possession shape. The shape that they were using to kind of build the ball and look to take control, but we didn't see it all that often, especially in the first half. United didn't have these spells where they were able to get on the ball and take control. Now, when they did, it was a 3-1-6, with Luke Shaw as the middle centre-back, Varane to one side and Eriksen dropping deeper, Malacia and Wan-Bissaka pushing forward. Sometimes we would see the two of them inside, sometimes we would see them outside with the wingers inside, and this was when Manchester United looked at their best. When they were able to get into these sustained periods of possession, with the fullbacks a little bit tucked in, Garnacho and Antony providing the width, this was when United looked at their best, with Shaw switching passes to Antony, but also Eriksen switching passes to Antony, and also Malacia. For me, these were United's brightest moments, switching the ball out to Antony, who had then had the quality to find an underlapping run from someone like Bruno Fernandes, but we didn't see this anywhere near enough. Manchester United were far too rushed and just had no control. It almost felt like the players were trying to do things a little bit too quickly. And I don't think Ten Hag will have been at all pleased with what we saw in the first half. There was a frantic nature to the game, and that's not what Ten Hag wants. He wants control. Yes, quick attacks, but control on the ball. United didn't have that. They were constantly trying to make every move a transition, it felt. It felt like that had to be a transition. United quickly had to get the ball and play forward. There was no situations, or certainly not regular enough situations, where they were using this shape. When they did use this shape, they looked dangerous, because Garnacho could get at Semedo with Malacia providing the underlapping run, and I thought that at times the Wolves' defence was far too narrow, which meant that he switched passes from deeper areas out to the other side of the pitch. They were constantly on, but United just didn't get into these situations often enough. However, we saw changes in the second half, so let's talk about some of them now. So to start off with, we literally did see change in personnel at half-time, with Garnacho coming off the pitch. I don't think it was anything that he done wrong. I think Ten Hag just wanted the extra quality of Marcus Rashford. And Diego Costa coming off for Wolves. I thought he was quiet in the first half, didn't really do much. And Adama coming on with Hwang then going up top. Now, whilst we saw that change in personnel with Marcus Rashford, we didn't necessarily see a massive change in theme of the match. It was still very evenly contested. However, what we did see from Manchester United was an extra sharpness, but also an extra control on the ball. It seems like the message from Ten Hag at half-time was, one, let's slow it down a little bit at times, but also just take care with what you're doing. Because in the first half, it was quite simple things that United were messing up. We saw a bit more care on the ball in the second half, and that made a big difference. So yes, Rashford coming on, of course, as we will see later, kind of impacted the game. What we now saw was just a bit more control from Manchester United. It certainly wasn't complete control. Wolves still had their spells, but I thought that United's second half looked much better, much tidier on the ball. They were keeping their possession much better, less hopeless passes over the top and things like that. United seemed a little bit more settled, probably the best word for it, a little more settled. And what this allowed them to do was try and build try and build moves. However, they still didn't really seem to click. The theme of the game kind of continued for about another 15 minutes, where both sides are kind of testing each other out, but not really properly going for it. Rashford had a couple of bright moments, but Antony was struggling to get into the game. Martial was a little bit sloppy, seemed a little bit off it. Wolves were trying to get into good areas, but not quite pulling it off, and then when they did get there, the final delivery weren't there. But then we saw some really big changes around the 60th minute, and this is where in-game management is absolutely crucial. It's something that I talk about on a reasonably frequent basis, controlling the game with substitutes and things like that. I thought that United and Erik ten Hag made much better in-game changes. And one of the things that we saw was Eriksen coming off for Fred. Now, that's not typically a substitution that you would expect to bring control, because Fred can be erratic in the way that he plays. But what it's done was it brought an extra energy to the Manchester United midfield. Because in this game, Wolves used a slightly deeper midfield than what they've used in recent games. We saw Moutinho operating more as a midfield 3, rather than a bit higher up, so United were often struggling to win the second ball in this area. Fred brought an extra tenacity, an extra energy, and intensity, allowing United to now win that second ball. So, initially, that's a very good substitution. Manchester United, Erik ten Hag, deserves credit, because Fred came on, brought an energy, a buzz about the pitch in the middle, and he was winning his duels, which put United in the right direction. Eriksen done okay, but was just struggling with the intensity. I always felt that Wolves were a little bit nippier, a little bit more sharper, a little bit more nimble. Fred kind of coming on, kind of countered that, and gave United a bit more control in the midfield. But what else gave Manchester United control in the midfield was, in my opinion, poor substitutions from Wolves. And what we saw was a change in formation to a back 5. We saw Semedo come off for Johnny, and we saw Aït-Nouri come on at left back, for Bueno, and we saw Totti come on at centre back. And these were just weird substitutions in my mind, because what it done was, let me just check that I've got the right number of players. I have. What it done was it reduced Wolves' number of players in midfield. So what they had done well all game was having that busy 3, with Moutinho in here with Neves and Nunes kind of buzzing about in the midfield, stopping Casemiro, Eriksen, Fernandes really taking control of the game. They now lost that. They went down to 2 central midfielders, and I was watching a match with my brother, and the first thing I said when that happened was, this is United's opportunity to take control of the game, because they now have the extra player in midfield, but also what United now need to do is move the ball quicker and look for 1-2s. And literally, I think, 30 seconds after I'd finished kind of saying that, Manchester United produced a bit of quality. Marcus Rashford produced a bit of quality. There was kind of this gap in the Wolves' defence as they were kind of almost adapting to the new shape that they were now playing. Players weren't quite sure what they were meant to be. Rashford took full advantage of that. He drives inside, plays the 1-2 with Bruno Fernandes, and then gets the ball back. Shows incredible strength initially to hold off the defender. I thought really good play from Marcus Rashford, but then also the quality with his finish. Now, like I said right at the start, what did Rashford do to annoy Ten Hag? I'm not sure. But what he done to please Erik ten Hag, I'm very sure of. And that was like an aggression on the ball, a directness on the ball, but also his physical strength. The Wolves defenders, these are some big defenders that Wolves have, especially when they went to the 3 centre-back system. Rashford brought a real power to the Manchester United attack, and the defenders just couldn't deal with him. Of course, it was quality from Bruno Fernandes as well to find him, and that was enough to get Manchester United the win. In-game changes. United made positive changes, got Fred on, brought an extra energy, but of course Marcus Rashford, an extra quality, an extra directness. Wolves made weird changes in my opinion. They didn't need a change in shape, and they lost control in the middle of the pitch. So, it was kind of a managerial battle which Ten Hag came out on top of. In the latter stages of the game, Wolves did push on and try and get a goal back, but Manchester United dealt with it very well. We saw Donny van de Beek come onto the pitch, played in this central area. Rashford went up front, Bruno Fernandes went to the left-hand side, and despite Wolves' best efforts, they got into good areas. Again, they just still didn't really trouble David De Gea. It was mainly set pieces that they were getting chances from, because in open play, Varane, Casemiro, Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka just defended really well, and Wolves didn't really have an answer to it. Manchester United defended brilliantly and deserved their clean sheet. And also, United should have won this game by more. Because with Wolves pushing men forward, committing higher up the pitch, United had counter-attacking opportunities. And Donny van de Beek made, I'll be honest, 2 kind of criminal decisions with his passes. He had 2 opportunities where he could have freed Marcus Rashford. On one occasion, he just chose the wrong pass and went to Bruno Fernandes. And then on another occasion, Rashford kind of made the run this way, wider, and Donny van de Beek played the pass central, so did waste a couple of moves. That was a little bit disappointing, so probably the one dampener on the performance was that Manchester United didn't kill it with a late goal. But apart from that, Ten Hag will be happy with the impact of Marcus Rashford. He'll be happy with his team's reaction in the second half, because it was much improved. And United did deserve their win. They deserved the 3 points and the clean sheet, but I just think they need to be a bit more, have a killer instinct. They need to kill this game off a little bit earlier. Again, kind of like what I was saying the other day, United didn't need this to be a contest still in the 80th minute. United should have been out of sight by then, but they weren't, and of course that's something that the manager can work on. But fortunately for United, right now they have Marcus Rashford, who is absolutely red-hot form, and is producing the goals, producing the moments that United need to win their matches, and at the moment it's going pretty well. So yeah, that's all I really have to say for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, I hope you have enjoyed it, and as always I will see you in the next one.